All right, it's already March here, the month of March 2022. And I want to show you something back here. It's beautiful all evening here. And right here. Oh, by the way, that's the moon up there. Hallelujah. But I want you to see this tree right here. All right, you can see the blooms. That's what I wanted to see. Or, against the wall there, you can see the evergreens, and that's what they use for Christmas, because Christmas is in the dead of winter, and that's not. Actually, the New Year, the Roman Gregorian calendar New Year, is not biblical. Right here, as you can see, this tree is blooming. All right, you can see the other tree in between here. This one is still leafless. It's still in that dead winter kind of condition. And then over here further, see the other tree here. This tree is also blooming. It's one of those trees. It's a maple actually, and it's bloomed already, just like the first one I showed you. And that's what I want you to see, that the trees are blooming, and that tells you spring is here, and this is the beginning of the new year, the Hebrew New Year. All right, and that's what I'll be covering in this brief teaching today. So you can see the tree right there. You can see the beautiful blooms. All right, you cannot zooming in here to show you see those beautiful blooms there. Yep. All right, so that is a sign of the beginning of life, or the beginning of the new year. And the Hebrew year begins in March, and we see relics also in some of the Bantu tribes. We'll be looking at that in the, but I want you to see the blooms here. And remember that life begins in the spring, and that's how the Most High has designed it. So the year begins in the spring, continues into the summer, then fall, and then winter. Winter is the sleeping kind of dead season, and then life springs back forth in the spring. But the Romans, they lie, they deceive the whole world that the year begins in January, when it is in the dead of winter. That's not biblical. All right, life begins in the spring. All right, those are the beautiful blooms right there. Hallelujah. So that's a sign of life, of the trees, the plants coming back to life. The trees, and the plants that are truly seasonal, that perennials that kind of synchronize their growth with the four seasons. The evergreens remain like that, and not surprisingly, they use the evergreens, the pines, for their wicked Christmas trees, which the scriptures tell us in Jeremiah chapter 10 that we should not observe that. All right, anyway, that's the moon over there all evening here. And once again, I just want to highlight that the trees are blooming, or the plants are blooming, and that tells us this is the spring, is the beginning of the year, the Hebrew year, or the Hebrew calendar, and this is when life begins. All right. Hallelujah. So it's a beautiful time again to bring a quick teaching here as rider to the footage you just saw. It'll be very brief and very short here. I just want to highlight the fact that this is the Hebrew New Year. Just studying this week. As you can see, I have the Enoch's calendar here superimposed on the Gregorian calendar. So on the Gregorian calendar, it's March 2022, and then the Enoch's calendar has been superimposed on the Gregorian calendar. And as you can see here, this on the 17th is 17th of March 2022 is Abib, the fast of Abib. And Abib means renewal. It means the Lord renews. And the Hebrew New Year begins in the spring, and that's what we shall be looking at. But I just wanted you to see the calendar here. And as of Thursday, Yom Hamish, or Yom Hamishi, which is very similar to Al-Hamisi in Swahili, Aramidi, and some of the other Bantu languages, they are very similar to Hebrew. So anyway, on Yom Hamishi, 17th of March 2022 is fast of Abib or Nisan. All right, so it's the Hebrew New Year, and we say Shana Tova. Shana Tova is Happy New Year in Hebrew. So I want to quickly go to this teaching here. To be a very brief introductory teaching, and then I'll be following it up with a complete teaching on the Hebrew New Year and the Passover or Pesach, because the Pesach comes 14 days after the beginning of the new year. So here on this one, we shall just be focusing on the Hebrew New Year, Shana Tova, which is Happy New Year. And in Exodus chapter 12, we see the Most High giving instructions to Moses, and he told him in the land of Egypt, and the Lord spake unto Moshe, or Moses, and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. Okay, so the Most High designated the beginning of the year for the Israelites. All right, it shall be the first month of the year to you, and that's very specific, because as we already know, the other nations have come up with their own calendars and all that, and that was also prophesied. So this is for us, the Hebrew or the Israelites' New Year. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel. You see the power of first mention. Congregation does not refer, or the first time the word congregation was used was in reference to the children of Israel. I think I've said on past footages that the true church is the congregation of Israel, and we can prove that even from the New Testament, from the book of Acts and the Gospels, especially the book of Acts. You'll see that the church, so-called, nowadays the Eurocentric Christianity has come up with what they call the church, and said that the church replaced Israel, which is not scriptural, and that's the basis of replacement theology. So they claim that the Most High did away with Israel, and now he deals with the church, which according to them actually is a Roman, not that word, Roman, Roman Catholic Protestant Christianity. That's what they call the church. But when you look at the scriptures, we see, first of all, on the basis of the power of first mention, we see the word congregation mentioned here. So the congregation, nowadays, we relate, that connotes church most of the time, but this word was first used with regard or in reference to the gathering of the children of Israel. So Israel is a true church, is a true congregation, and Israel has not been replaced. And we see that in Romans chapter 11, that the Most High will not do away with Israel. And some people may say that, in the New Testament, everybody is included and all that. Those are some of the discussions or arguments or questions and answers that we come across when we come into the awakening. But that has been proven over and over again, that the Most High will still choose Israel. Even when you look at the coming back, which is prophesied in Isaiah chapter 14, the scriptures tell us, for the Lord will yet choose Israel. Okay? So Israel is God's chosen people. Israel is the true church, and the congregation refers to the gathering of Israel. So speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. Now these were the instructions that the Most High was giving to Moshe in preparation for the Passover. As I just mentioned, the Hebrew New Year is followed within 14 days by the Passover or the Pesach, because we know that these instructions were given to Moshe and the congregation of Israel when they were still in Egypt. And the time of their departure from Egypt was going to be 14 days after the beginning of the Hebrew New Year, and that is the Passover. So that's part of the instructions we see here. And so, as I've already shown you on the calendar, the Gregorian calendar is different from the Hebrew calendar, and that was prophesied, as we shall see. In the Gregorian calendar is perverted, is a perversion of the true biblical calendar. All right. First of all, for the heathens to be able to deceive the whole world, especially the Roman Empire, the Europeans, the Caucasians, our brother Esau, the descendants of Esau, they hid some books, because if those books were out in the open like they are now, it would have been very difficult for them to deceive the world. So they first had to hide the truth and then come up with lies. Now, some of the books that were hidden, as we've already seen over and over again, include the book of Enoch. And from the book of Enoch, chapter 104, this is the first book of Enoch. The second book of Enoch is also known as the Secrets of Enoch. Okay. Now, from the book of Enoch, chapter 104, verse 12, in the last days, the righteous will receive the books from the earth. That is, some of them came from Qumran cave. And this is like what we read in the book of Revelation, that the dragon sent a flood after the woman, the woman is Israel. The woman is us, the 12 tribes of Israel in the book of Revelation. And the dragon is the Roman Empire and the devil. They sent a flood after us, which is a flood of lies and, delusions and all that kind of propaganda. But the earth helped the woman. And part of the way the earth helps a woman is by opening up and releasing the books that were hidden. And these books teach us the secrets that have been hidden in them. And one of the secrets, or some of the secrets we learn in those books, is what we call the secret of the times. And the secret of the times actually alludes to the book of Jubilees. All right. And when we begin to, uncover the secrets or the hidden scriptures, we learn amazing things, even about the calendar. And some of those, prophecies are even in the book of Daniel, how the heathens would try to change the times and laws. So by hiding the scriptures, the heathens misled us to follow some of their trends. And one of the trends they do follow is the trend of lying about, the moon, the sun, the earth, and the whole universe, how they lie that the earth revolves around the sun and things like that. We come, as we have actually noticed, the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. But the heathens have had us believe the lie that the earth is spinning at a very high speed around the sun, which is basically sun worship. But anyway, there are 52 Sabbaths, and in the book of Sirach, chapter 43, from verse 6 through 8, and sometimes, actually, you've already seen this in the footage, because sometimes I quote this when I'm recording the moon and the chariots of holy angels. Sirach or Ecclesiasticus 43, verse 6 and 8 through 8 says, "He made the moon also to serve in her season, for a declaration of times, in a sign of the world. From the moon is a sign of feasts, a light that decreaseth in her perfection." So when we actually look at the book of Enoch, from chapter 72 to through 78, we learn a lot of things about the moon and the sun and the stars. And one of the things we learn is that in its cycle, the moon begins as a crescent with only 1/14 of its light poured in from the sun. And then each day, the moon receives an additional 1/14 of its light poured in from the sun until it becomes a full moon in about 14 days. And then from the full moon, it goes into the diminution stage where the light begins to decrease. All right. So there is a light that decreases in her perfection. From the full moon, it begins to decrease gradually, going back to the beginning where it begins with zero light. It receives 1/14 of its light and continues the cycle like that. Another thing we learned from the books of Enoch is that the moon sometimes changes, and I have observed that because lots of you who know that I record chariots of angels almost every day for the last now more than 2 years. I have observed the things that Enoch observed, even about the patterns of the moon. Sometimes the moon will appear first from the west, and then it will move gradually across the skies and move to the east, and then it begins to rise from the east and goes west. So it's not like the sun, which uniformly starts from rises from the east and sets in the west. The moon changes, and even some of the monthly cycles of the moon also alter. And because of that, those who just follow the moon, they get confused and mess up the calendar. All right, the month. Okay, this is very important. Verse 8 of Sirach, chapter 43. Watch this. The moon is called after her. No, let me take that back. The month is called after her name. The month is called after whose name? The moon's name. And this is very true in Bantu languages. In a Bantu language, the word we use for the moon is the same word we use for the month. So both of them are Moeri, meaning moon. So the word we use for the moon is the same word we use for the month, and that's Hebrew right there. That's another relic to tell you that the Bantus are indeed the Hebrews, the Israelites. Okay? And because of this, some people are confused, because when, for instance, the scriptures tell us to celebrate the new moon, what actually the scripture is telling us, or the scriptures are telling us, is to celebrate the new month. So some people, they take that literally and they use the moon itself, the moon in the sky, to mark the beginning of the month. And by so doing, they mess up the days, because in some instances, the moon comes out 10 days sooner. So what that means is that some of the month will be, shuffled up, and because of that, the heathens, by strictly just observing the cycles of the moon and not having that understanding that the word for moon and month mean the same thing, and also some of them, out of mischief, they have messed up the calendar, just to, especially the Roman Empire, they have messed up the calendar and changed the times to throw us off and make us miss the order that the Most High designed for us. Okay, and that's why we are going back to these things. They came and bumped us out of the Hebraic traditions that we were following and observing correctly the months and the years, and they introduced the Gregorian calendar, which is all messed up. And with that, they were able to throw us off from the feasts. And then they also introduced their pagan holidays, and that threw us completely off. So these are the things in the awakening that we are bringing back in order. We are not turning the world upside down. We are turning the world the right side up, because the heathens have turned the world upside down with their lies. Okay, so the month is called after her name, or after the moon. All right, that's why you see in Kikuyu and other Bantu languages, the word for moon is the same word for month. And when I do the full teaching, not this one, I'll show you all that. I'll show you relics. Even I'll show you the Kikuyu Bantu Hebrew calendar to prove that indeed the Hebraic year begins in the spring, which is biblical. Life begins in the spring. Abib means the Lord renews, or the renewal by the Lord. The month is called after her name, after the moon, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. And hallelujah, we witness this every time the moon comes out. And I know, I record this very often by the grace of God. And I know how times in Africa we used to celebrate the moon, just rejoicing to look up and see a lot of stars. Most of them are chariots we didn't know, and saw the moon, and we really used to rejoice as kids. Now I know why. It's a connection, because we also see in the Testament of Judah that the moon has been given to us in the tribe of Asher as a blessing, special to us. Okay, Psalms 81 verse 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, right here. So what is the new moon? This is not referring to the literal moon. It's referring to the month. In the time appointed on our solemn feast day. For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the God of Jacob. So the moon in certain scriptures, just like we have seen there, Psalms 81, refers to month, not the moon. But many people confuse that and observe the moon instead of observing the moon month. All right, I've already kind of explained that. Okay, so Psalms 89, it shall be established forever as the moon, and as a faithful witness in heaven, Selah. Now, actually, when we look at Psalms, actually not, Jeremiah 31, if I may go there very quickly. When we go to Jeremiah 31, we're talking about how the moon has been established. If we go to Jeremiah 31 and verse 35 and 36, watch this very quickly. Jeremiah 31, 35 and 36, what does it tell us? Thus saith the Lord which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Lord, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. What does that mean? There are other versions that put it this way, that the moon, the sun, and the stars have been given as a lasting ordinance, testifying that as long as they endure, the Most High shall not do away with us, the true and genuine children of Israel, as a nation. So the moon and the sun and the stars are an ordinance. They are a lasting ordinance, and that's what we are seeing in the, that's what we are seeing in that scripture here, that the moon is a faithful witness. It's established forever as a faithful witness in heaven. But following the moon only and changing times has led to some claiming that the heathens lying that the year is 365 and a quarter days, and they also refuse to follow the Sabbath. They have leap years and other ways to confuse us. But we see from the hidden scriptures that are now being revealed by the Most High that a year is supposed to be 364 days. And this is according to the books of Enoch and Jubilees. Now, let's quickly look at the book of Jubilees here, chapter 6. And all the days of the commandment will be 250 weeks of days. So a year is supposed to have 52 weeks. And this will make the entire year complete. Thus, it's engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablets. And there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year or from year to year. So these were the instructions we were supposed to be following as the Israelites, as the Hebrews. And command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning. 364 days. So the year is supposed to be 364 days, not the heathen's lie of 365 and a quarter days. Yeah, those are the lies of Esau and other heathens. Okay, so command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days, and this will constitute a complete year. And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feasts. See that? That's the way it was supposed to be. But what happened? Watch verse 33. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all the seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order, and they will disturb the seasons, and the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their ordinances. And all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. All right, let's go back there and finish that up. Okay, and they will go wrong as to all the orders of the years. For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto thee, and it is not of my own devising, for the book lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feasts of the covenant, and walk according to the feasts of the Gentiles, after their own error, and after their ignorance. That's what happened when we were scattered into all the kingdoms of this earth through captivity and the Assyrian invasion and all that. The heathens came and introduced their ways and their calendars and their pagan feasts. Yeah, those are your Christmas, Ishtar, which is a goddess, Ashtaroth, and Diana of Ephesus. They introduced what? Other things, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, whatever else, all these other kinds of, pagan holidays. Mardi Gras and other crazy things, all those are pagan holidays that are not for us as the children of Israel. So, but it was prophesied in Jubilees that that would happen, and that we would walk according to the feasts of the Gentiles after their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year, 10 days too soon. So I've observed, that the moon is kind of unpredictable. It's not, the pattern is not exactly the same, when you look at it, throughout the year, as I've been recording for the last 2 years. For this reason, the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day, the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. What does that allude to? Among other things, it alludes to making Sunday the Sabbath. It also alludes to having Easter instead of the Passover. It also alludes to things like Christmas. All right, so all these are prophesied in the Bible. And they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy. For they will go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees. That's what has happened. We have gone astray thanks to mixing with the heathens, and also us not knowing who we were. But now we are waking up and we are dusting up ourselves and getting the records and going back to what we should have believed in the first place. For this reason, I command and testify to thee, that thou mayest testify to them. For after thy death, Moses' death, thy children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. See, it was prophesied. Now we have the year being 365 and a quarter days. And for this reason, they will go wrong as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals. And they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. You see, all those were abominations that were not supposed to be part of us as the children of Israel, or unfortunately because of rebelling and going astray from the Most High, God, the God of Israel, and for going after other gods and other nations, we have been led astray. So now we need to go back. We need to go back to the right ways, and that this the what is called the Enoch's calendar. According to Enoch's calendar, which is consistent with what we have just read from Jubilees, a year is supposed to be 364 days, not 365 and a quarter days. And this is a representation here of Enoch's, a calendar, just a wheel showing us the, a depiction of the same. And actually, if I come here, show you, this is from the book. This book is the lovely book of Enoch that I have shared from with you in the recent past. Let's try and, okay, so that's the book and the Secrets of Enoch, the two of them. It has English and Hebrew. It's the Ethiopic version. All right, and here we see, so this is that you can see it starts with spring right here. All right, mid-spring, late spring, about 90 days, and then summer, another 90 days, and then autumn or fall, 90 days, and winter, midwinter, and late winter. And then we have the vernal equinox, the summer solstice, autumn equinox, and the winter solstice. Okay, yeah, okay. So this is actually been found in one of the remaining synagogues in Israel, in the northern slopes of the Gilboa Mountains of Israel. The remains of the 6th century synagogue called Beit Alpha. This is reversed. When I copied it here, it's supposed to come before that. This is Beit Alpha. The synagogue once housed a congregation of Israelites who kept the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahushua. On the floor, there are painted several Hebraic symbols and mosaic images, including an undefiled depiction of the Hebrew Mazzaroth. Mazzaroth refers to constellations, and we see that in the book of Job. I'll not go into that right now, but when I do the full teaching, I'll show you that, which the heathens call the zodiac. And this serves as actually a calendar. All right, this is basically a depiction of the same Enoch's calendar with 364 days. All right, so what we see here is 4 angels that control, if you like, the 4 equinoxes, or the 2 equinoxes and the solstice. So there are 4 holy angels assigned to the 4 seasons, 1 angel for each season, and then each of the months is represented by a symbol here. And when I do the full thing, I'll show you the meanings of these symbols. And just for a quick one here, if I may take you back to the camera here. Okay, you see the calendar I showed you at the beginning. So this is Abib, and you see the symbol. Okay, the symbol here, watch it. The symbol for Abib is the lamb. Do you see the lamb right here? See this one here? Okay, okay, so right there. And when you go here, you see it on the calendar. So this is the first month, Abib, and the symbol is a ram. All right, the ram. Actually, so is it that one right there? And this is on the Mazzaroth, and the name is Tela, and the ruling angel is Adnael. Okay, Adnael. The ram, the first symbol of Hoshua as the lamb slain from the foundation of the world, in Revelation 13:8. And this corresponds to Abib, corresponds also to the month when we have the Passover, when the lamb was slain. He is the leader of the sheep, adorned with a crown or horns, and this Mazzaroth represents strength, sacrifice, and purity. So when you see this Mazzaroth, this is not like the heathen zodiac that they have perverted. What they have done is that they have put 12 stars, and that's astrology. The original Mazzaroth, or the Hebrew Israelites Mazzaroth, is this one here, and what is represented here is very prophetic and very powerful. And in the middle here, we see the glory of Yahweh and the 4 beasts, as we see in the book of Ezekiel, and also John the Revelator. Okay, they talk about the 4 beasts. So a quick introduction there to the Mazzaroth and the representation of Enoch's calendar with 364 days. And as we have seen, when we superimpose that on the Gregorian calendar, this is what we get right there. Okay, I want to quickly finish here. So you already have this perfectly. I have shown you, this is a picture of it. So this is the correct calendar, not the Gregorian. You know, the Gregorian calendar, we've already caught it on 2 counts. Number 1, they have 365.25 days. That's off from the scriptures. The year is supposed to be 364 days only. Number 2, they start their year in the dead of winter instead of spring, when life begins. Okay, and this has been done by who? The Roman Empire, which came up with the Roman Catholic and Protestant Church, as I already told you, replacement theology, they came up with the Gregorian calendar and Easter instead of the Passover, and all those other things that we have read in the book of Jubilees that would happen to us. A lot of it has been done thanks to the Roman Empire, our brother Esau, who deceives the whole world with the great delusion of Eurocentric Roman Catholic Protestant Christianity, great delusion that Thessalonians talks about. In conclusion here, very quickly, the Hebrew year or the biblical year starts in the spring, and we see in the Songs of Solomon chapter 2 verse 11, for lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. The fig tree putteth forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grape give a good smell. That is spring for you, Abib, renewed by the Most High, waking up from the dead of winter. That's when the year starts. So the true biblical year, the Hebrew year, begins in the spring, not in the dead of winter. It's a perversion for the heathens to say that the year begins in winter. You know, in Africa, people may not recognize that because it is the tropics and the weather there is, you know, kind of warm. So it may not be a big deal. But when you're in the temperate regions, you know that December, January is winter proper now. Okay, so, and the same thing with Israel. So, and that's why it's a fallacy also to claim that Yahushua or Jesus was born in the dead of winter. How could the shepherds have been sitting out in the snow? Holy night, silent night in the winter, out in the watching after flocks in the winter. So many lies that the Eurocentric Christianity has peddled. But now it's time we are waking up and we are turning the world the right side up and going back to the truth. In the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of times. That's basically 350 years to 400 years of slavery. And who is that we are reading about? Let's wrap it up with that scripture. And that is from Daniel. Come on, Daniel, show up. All right, Daniel 7. And we're going to go to verse, actually let's start from verse, let me show you very quickly here as a wrap up. I didn't want to make this long at all. All right. Fourth beast, verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth. So people are waiting for a man, a single individual called the beast. Daniel 7:23 tells us clearly that the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. That's America for you right there. That's America and NATO and their brother Russia. Those are the three heads of the Roman Empire. The renewed Roman Empire that received a fatal wound but healed from it, coming back during the Renaissance. And so the world today is ruled by the Roman Empire, the Caucasians, in the form of what? A kingdom. And this kingdom is comprised of what? America, European Union, and Russia. And America specifically being the lead of that whole empire. And what have they done? First of all, they are diverse. You can see the diversity. They say America is a melting pot, and they shall devour the whole earth. Look at the wars America has fought. Even right now, you find America in so many countries with their military. Look at how they demolished, Baghdad. The military, how they demolished Baghdad, in Iraq, Syria, Libya, all those countries where Afghanistan. It's nothing compared to what Russia is doing in Ukraine. Shock and awe. Within the first 48 hours, Baghdad was just ablaze with bombs, So actually, the book of Jeremiah 50 or 51 refers to America as the hammer of the earth. They break to pieces those countries they attack. And the 10 horns, those are your friends, the European Union, the original 10 horns. Now there are 38 countries, but the original core is the 10 horns. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are the 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, that another is America. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. That is America. And for America to become America, they subdued Great Britain, France, and I think Belgium. All right, those are 3 kings they subdued, and then they became what the America is today. And now talking about America, he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. Whom does America have? The tribe of Judah, the so-called African Americans, as slaves, and others as immigrants, and they discriminate against the true generation of Israel, the so-called Negroes, in that they wear us out in many ways, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hands until a time and times and the dividing of time. So that a time and times, that is 300 years, and the dividing of time is another 100 years, 400 years. All right, making it about 400 years of slavery from 1619 to 2019. And when we see, in closing here, what the scriptures say about that, we see in Genesis 15, that prophecy of the times and time and a dividing of times. Genesis 15, verse 13 and 14. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. That is the kingdom out of the 10, which is diverse than the others, and shall wear out the saints, and they shall be given into his hands for a times, that is 100 years, and another 200 years, and a dividing of time, which is another 100 years, almost making it 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. That's happening now. And afterward shall they come out with great substance. So that's bullseye, talking about America right there. And it is a lead of the Roman Empire, and America has the saints as slaves for 400 years, since 1619 till 2019, according to the Gregorian calendar. And now it's time of what? America being judged, Babylon falling, and after that, second Exodus, where the saints shall afterwards come out with great substance. That's right there prophesied. But just in conclusion, once again, we see that the biblical year, the Hebrew year, begins in the spring, not in the dead of winter. It went a little bit longer than I expected. I'm going to kind of have to leave it up at this point. And with this, I'm going to say, Kram Yisrael, Barakadam Mishpaka, Ahuvim, Shana Tova, which is a Hebrew Happy New Year, Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova. All right, see you on the next one. I'll do the full teaching, and I'll show you much greater details about the Gregorian calendar and the Passover. Also, some very interesting things coming up. Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom. See you on the next one. Hi. All right, there you go. Snoopy. Please like and share this video and subscribe to the Bantu Hebrew Israelites Awakening channel for automatic notification of future uploads of videos. Shalom Aleichem. In this amazing book from Russia. Painted within the Annunciation Cathedral. Back in the 15th century, the Crucifixion, this icon of the Crucifixion, shows Jesus with the white garment, dark-skinned, as the Bible describes in Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. The Israelites as well, dark-skinned, as we see in Jeremiah 14, verse 2, Lamentations 4:8, Job 30:30, all in King James Version, before it was manipulated through translations. True Israelites, Negroes, Bantus, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Shalom Aleichem.